Well, it happened. Donald Trump is no longer president of the United States. And now, the question that's on everyone's mind is what happens next? Find out today on the Prophetic Eye. The day, January 20th, 2021. Another presidential inauguration. And I have to admit that it was a lot quieter than I expected. So, the question begs to be asked, what happens now? What should we expect? In order to answer that question, I want us to take a quick peek into the future with our prophetic lenses to understand the motivation of those that will legislate a false day of worship. In the Great Controversy, page 590, it says, "The people will lament the great wickedness in the world and second the testimony of religious teachers that the degraded state of morals is caused by the desecration of Sunday." So, we see a degraded state of morals. It goes on to say in the next paragraph that it will be declared that men are offending God by the violation of the Sunday Sabbath, that this sin has brought calamities which will not cease until Sunday observance shall be strictly enforced, and that those who present the claims of the fourth commandment, thus destroying reverence for Sunday, are troublers of the people, preventing their restoration to divine favor and temporal prosperity. And so we have some more details. There will be a decline in morality. There will be an increase in calamities and natural disasters. And there will be a desire for temporal prosperity to be restored, which means that at some point, the economy will be in an irreparable condition. And you can read Revelation 18 to see the details of the economic collapse. All of this will eventually lead Protestants in this country to seek to take the reins and fix the country by embracing the foundational principle of Romanism, which is to remove the separation of church and state. There will be a call for Christians to also become patriots, to rise up for God and country. There will be continued calls to stand for the flag and kneel for the cross. And eventually, these Christian patriots will demand that we meet the moral and temporal crisis through a return to God. But make no mistake about it, while Christian zealots will be at the forefront of this, eventually they will not be alone. The Great Controversy puts it this way: the dignitaries of church and state will unite to bribe, persuade, or compel all classes to honor the Sunday. This indicates that at some point there will be a unity that takes place between the left and the right by the dignitaries of church and the dignitaries of state, much like the unity that came when Herod and Pilate came together and became friends for a common purpose, when they had been bitter enemies up until that point. But in the meantime, the fight between the left and the right will go on. It goes on to say in the Great Controversy that the lack of divine authority will be supplied by oppressive enactments, and so biblical authority, or the lack thereof, will be a focal point in these movements. It goes on to say, political corruption is destroying love of justice and regard for truth. And even in free America, rulers and legislators, in order to secure public favor, will yield to the popular demand for a law enforcing Sunday observance. If you've been worrying about a dictatorship or a totalitarian government in this country, then I think it's safe to say that you can stop worrying about that today. Prophecy declares emphatically that this movement will be by the people, from the people, and for the people. The rulers and legislators will yield to the people's demands, not the other way around. Revelation 13 refers to this process as the image to the beast and the mark of the beast. And if you want a quick overview of how this is going to happen, then I suggest you take a look at our video, Revelation 13 in 13 minutes. In this Adventist article from 1973 in Ministry Magazine entitled Sabbath Keeping, Patriotism, and National Ruin, the author highlights the rise of Christian nationalism and patriotism that has been growing for decades, and that this will ultimately lead to the ruin of the nation. It says, unfortunately, like Israel before her, the American people have appeared bent on walking by sight and not by faith, even though Christ has declared unequivocally that his kingdom is not of this world. Herculean efforts have been made and will continue to be made to establish just such a kingdom here upon the earth. America will yet rest herself wholly free of the divine embrace and will assume prerogatives that God has denied even to himself. And that thing that God has denied to himself is to try to force others into keeping the commandments. The artist who produced the cover for this article was able to capture the essence of Revelation 13, which is that the lamb-like beast representing Protestant America will bring about national ruin by seeking to legislate Sunday sacredness. In 1888, a senator by the name of Henry Blair brought legislation to the Senate to mandate Sunday observance. As a matter of fact, it probably sounded something like this.
Probably we should be debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday.
It was with this backdrop that Ellen White wrote the following in the Review and Herald on December 18, 1888. It says, "A time is coming when the law of God is, in a special sense, to be made void in our land. The rulers of our nation will by legislative enactments enforce the Sunday law, and thus God's people be brought into great peril. When our nation, in its legislative councils, shall enact laws to bind the consciences of men in regard to their religious privileges, enforcing Sunday observance and bringing oppressive power to bear against those who keep the seventh-day Sabbath, the law of God will to all intents and purposes be made void in our land, and national apostasy will be followed by national ruin." I hope you caught that. The very national ruin that so many so-called Christian patriots are fearing will actually be brought about by Christian patriots, or by what some would call the religious right. As I mentioned earlier, moral decline will be a major motivating factor in the enforcement of the mark of the beast. Legislation surrounding gay marriage and abortion are some of the issues that have infuriated Protestants in this country.
It's time to make our stand, and we're not doing it. The devil is taking control of this land, and we're not stopping him.
And what you saw right there is the problem. Instead of accomplishing the work of the gospel by being evangelical in their efforts, millions are trying to accomplish the work of the gospel by being political in their efforts. And unfortunately, in today's world, many are evangelicals in name only. Issues like gay marriage, abortion, and the bathroom bills that we've seen in recent years has played a major role in swinging America to the right and to the left. And it will continue to swing until it comes crashing down on the right with the enforcement of the mark of the beast. So, over the next 4 years, you can expect the policies and laws put in place by the left to push Protestants to become even more desperate in their attempts to take back the country for God. You can expect more calls for a moral rebirth, more calls for law and order, more calls to combat anarchy and corruption. But eventually, the object of those declarations will shift to Sabbath keepers. The Great Controversy, page 592, puts it this way: "Those who honor the Bible Sabbath will be denounced as enemies of law and order and breaking down the moral restraints of society, causing anarchy and corruption, and calling down the judgments of God upon the earth." Did you catch it? The same language of morality, law and order, anarchy and corruption that we hear in the news every day was highlighted in this book to guide us in our thinking and to give us the proper perspective. And so, my appeal to you today: don't choose sides. Remember your prophetic heritage and remember where this is heading and how we're going to get there. We're heading to a final spiritual conflict, and we need to figure that out by getting back to the Word so that we can see clearly by looking at things through a prophetic eye. God bless.